everybody. Brad McMullen along with Hall of Fame football coach Bob Stoops. And Bob, before we talk about the Sooners, let's talk about your family. Pretty special thing happened this last weekend with your brother Mark passing Bear Bryant for most wins at Kentucky.
Yeah, they had a great game, Kentucky. They're down in the swamp to beat Florida at home there, 26-16. Great game. They really played a strong game, shut Florida out in the second half. And, Will Levis, their quarterback, had a heck of a game. He's a heck of a player, really good football player. So really happy for Mark, who's the all-time winningest coach in Kentucky football history. Past Paul Bear Bryant. The guy knows a little bit about football, hadn't he?
Just a little, just a touch.
So, and Mike is there coaching linebackers as well with him. So he got to enjoy that. In fact, I was talking to the two of them after the game shortly, and Mike goes, well, at least I've been on the staff with the all-time winningest coach at Oklahoma and at Kentucky. So he takes a piece of it as well. So anyway, happy for them, and it's exciting.
And this week you're actually going to get a chance to see your brothers in person. Talk about what's going on.
Yeah, Kentucky plays Youngstown State at home, and they're going to recognize Mark as being the all-time winningest coach in Kentucky history. So I'm going to go back to Ohio, see my family for a little bit, and then we're all traveling down together to go see Mark's game and Mike's game. So looking forward to that and excited for them, and I can't wait to be there. And of all teams, they're playing Youngstown State. So I'm sure there'll be a contingent of people from Youngstown down there.
Absolutely. All right, now switching gears, Oklahoma defeated Kent State, an unbelievable second half by the Sooners. Defensively, the entire game, very impressive. A top 5 rushing offense in the country last year was Kent State, a top 10 offense, and only 3 points. You got to be proud of what you saw in the Sooners on Saturday.
They played great. Tight game there. Offensively took them a while to figure things out. Kent was playing that odd front. That's not your traditional odd front, but a kind of a 3-3 stack defense, which is hard to target people. But anyway, but defensively, again, another excellent game by the Sooners. Bunch of sacks again, great coverage, which leads to the sacks. Got their hands on a lot of footballs again. Really controlled the run game, and I thought defensively they played really great. Billy Bowman had a couple of big plays, continues to show up. I think Reggie Grimes had another 2 or 3 sack day. So, these guys are really doing a great job.
And that third quarter offensively, very impressive for the Oklahoma Sooners. And talk about what it was like to see your son playing again and doing so well.
Well, the third quarter was really excellent. And I think that's going into the halftime. This is what they're doing. They started to figure it out. And then we go out and execute in the third quarter to make a bunch of plays to give us a big lead, and that happens in some games. It takes you a while to figure out what they're doing, but they did. And Dylan Gabriel, I thought, had another excellent day. And yeah, it was fun to see Drake catch a touchdown pass, make a nice play, and get it in the score. So I used to, as a coach, I used to cringe when the guys would be diving for the pylon, but that's all everyone does now. And truth be told, the gloves are so good that ball's pretty secure in there. So, no, it was a great play for him to be able to dive and reach the pylon.
All right, Sooners moved up to number 6 in the country in both polls. A huge game, a historic game, if you will, when it comes to rivalries, as they'll be taking on Nebraska. But a lot of craziness with Nebraska over the last few years, and it ended up costing Scott Frost his job Sunday morning. Nebraska obviously is going to have a sellout. They've had a sellout since 1969 every single game. But this is just a different team, and people can't put their finger on it because they're competitive in almost every game they play, but they have just not been able to get over the hump.
Yeah, and it's hard to say why. Last year was the same thing. There's so many, everyone keeps saying it, one-score games that they're on the wrong side of, and you just wonder why. Just to be so close but not be able to get over the hump. Believed in Scott Frost. I liked him. Had an incredible career at Central Florida. It's just hard to say why. But if anyone knows Nebraska and their history and their, what their culture is. It's Scott Frost being having played there and been a great player at Nebraska. So I don't know. It's just hard to say why. But as you said, they've been in every game. So I know our team's got to go down there and play a great game, be prepared and be ready, and I'm sure that they'll know that and they'll be ready for it. I think Casey Thompson, their quarterback, is a really good quarterback. Followed him for a good number of years and really like him as a quarterback. So he's still there. So anyway, we've just got to be prepared and worry about OU and be prepared to play a great game.
And they offensively, as you mentioned with Casey, they've been doing well this year. They scored another 42 points on Saturday. It was the black shirt defense that just did not show up once again.
Yeah, and it's, again, hard to say why, but you need that extra sack or that intercept turnover or something to be able to, on some of those late drives, to be able to stop somebody and be on the proper end of a tight game.
All right, well, there's a coaching opening, and guess whose name is being mentioned already with that opening? So we're going to get right to it. It's your app. We've got to ask this question. Do you have any interest in being the next coach at Nebraska?
No one's looking for me to have to say it, but no, I'm not. That is not a job that I'm going to be interested in. I think it's a heck of a job, great job. They've got an incredible following. So someone will be lucky, to have that great job, but that won't be me.
All right, let's talk about some of the candidates that are also being mentioned along with yourself. Matt Campbell at Iowa State. He has done very well, obviously, making the Cyclones a legitimate contender in the Big 12. Do you think he would be a good fit at Nebraska?
I think Matt Campbell would be a good fit for anywhere. I think he's a really strong coach, great background, very level-headed, sharp, smart guy, So I think you could put Matt Campbell about anywhere.
And he would do well. All right, Luke Fickell, Cincinnati.
Same thing. So Luke's a great coach, great background. They're both Ohio guys. They got great football backgrounds, and again, just really good people, great family men, would fit anywhere.
And both good at developing talent. All right, some of the other names that are being mentioned by ESPN right now. Chris Kleiman from Kansas State, and boy, Oklahoma Sooner fans, get ready. Kansas State's coming to Norman for a primetime matchup here the week after Nebraska. Kansas State has looked really good under Kleiman.
Definitely. I like the way he coaches. His teams play tough, play hard. Run the football well. He definitely OU's got to be ready here in a few weeks. But yeah, Chris Kleiman would definitely be a good fit.
All right, others on the names. You've got Matt Rule, who's with the Carolina Panthers right now. Baker, boy, he did such a great job in that second half getting Carolina over the hump. But who would have thought a 58-yard field goal?
Well, and how about the roughing the passer
penalty? Terrible call. Awful call.
I don't know I didn't see any of the follow-up to it, but just watching it, he hits him in his arm, I thought, or did I see that wrong?
Well, he drove the offensive lineman back, and it was the offensive lineman's arm that hit the quarterback, and they thought that it was the defensive guy who did it. And it's an awful call.
I thought
we had 20 yards.
I thought we had review in 2022.
It's awful.
I
awful
hated
call.
that because that field goal doesn't happen.
It cost him the game. All right, other names.
Matt Rule's a great coach. Did a great job at Baylor in a tough situation. So he knows what a tough situation looks like, and he's a great coach.
Turned around. All right, and Lance Leopold from Kansas, Rock Chalk Jayhawk. Believe it or not, they're first place in the Big 12 right now because they're the only one with a win in the Big 12. 2-0 Kansas Jayhawks.
And played a heck of a game.
Yes.
Looked really good at West. Was it at West Virginia at home? I think it was. So give him credit. And heck, he had us on the ropes. If it weren't for Caleb Williams making an incredible play, they're in a position to beat OU last year. So he's making a difference, and looks like he's doing a heck of a job.
So if you were the athletic director, if you were Trev Alberts there at Nebraska, who's on your short list for this job?
All those guys would be. The hard part is the timing. How do you start communicating with somebody now, and unless they're like in my position, out of a job. So it's hard to say who. But there's a lot of good quality football coaches out there, and so we'll see where it goes. It's hard for me to say.
Or you never know. You can just wait till the very end of the season, pick up the phone right after their last game, and in 30 minutes you might get a coach. You never know.
You're being a little facetious.
Sorry about that. Sorry about it. A little deep on that. All right, let's talk about the game. OU versus Nebraska. What does OU need to do in this game to win this game?
I think continue to build on the style, on how they want to play. First, come in with a tough, great mindset. Regardless of what's happening at Nebraska, they've got to go play their best. So focus on being their best in everything they do, with meetings and then their travel and what the atmosphere is going to be like. Just to be prepared for it all and realizing, and I'm sure they do. They were in a heck of a game with Nebraska just a year ago. Mm-hmm. So it's a quality team that that you're going to need to play your best to have a chance to win. So get prepared for it, and I believe they will, and as well as keep improving from the first two games. There's certain parts of each game that you can segment and look at. That look, we're a lot better than these 2-3 series. What went wrong, and how can we keep it from happening again? And I'm sure they'll dissect it that way, these last couple games and how they can improve. And that's what you have to do. The best teams get better incrementally as the season goes.
Yeah, and they need to do more of what you saw defensively in that third quarter, making the tackles, offensively putting up the points. They just need to bring that second half team, the first half against Nebraska. All right, so the point spread on this game is 13 points, Oklahoma favored on the road. How do you think the Sooners are going to do when it comes to that?
I'm going to take the Sooners covering. I just feel, again, we're just starting to, get momentum, and I believe it'll continue. I think we're going to continue to play well.
All right, the other big story in college football right now, Marcus Freeman, hot name out of Cincinnati as a defensive coordinator. Of course, joins Notre Dame, does a great job, is named the head coach at Notre Dame, but his first 3 games as the head football coach at Notre Dame, he is 0-3 when you include the bowl game loss to Oklahoma State. What's not clicking at Notre Dame right now?
Again, really hard to say when you're not there, but he's got a lot of the same coaches that were with him, that along with Brian Kelly. I think Marcus Freeman did an outstanding job as a defensive coordinator and a defensive coach. I'm all for him. I still believe he's a heck of a coach. I mean, these have been some tight, tough games. Played the heck out of Ohio State, and I know no one wants any moral victories, but I think he'll do well. It's just going to take time, and again, you just got to find a way to win tight games, and some people do it better than others for whatever reason. Whether the players, you got the right guys to make those 2-3 extra key plays that change the game. Avoid the turnover that takes the game from you, those kind of things, and I'm sure they're working at it. I'm a big believer, just watching Marcus Freeman, really like him and believe things will turn around for him.
And the 10,000-foot approach, if you take a step back, he lost to Oklahoma State, who finished in the top 10 last year. He lost to Ohio State, who is currently ranked in the top 5. It's not like he lost to no-name teams, and Marshall played really, really well on Saturday. You have to give him credit.
Well, look at Appalachian State beats A&M. Marshall can beat Notre Dame. OU's in a 3-3 game at half or whatever it was. I mean, 7-3. Yeah. These teams are better than people want to give them credit for. And, Kent won the MAC last year. And all those teams are good, solid football teams, and they play good football. So just because the name or, when you live it like we've lived it, we're aware of it as coaches.
Yeah.
That a couple 3-4 plays and you're turnover here or there, and you could be on the wrong end of it in a minute.
And you've said it time and time. The big games, the way they say it in history, are the ones that you've lost. Leading. How did we lose this game? It just happens. I mean, it just happens.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to be on the wrong end of it. And but again, I think everyone goes back and what's the mindset of your team, how they come into the game emotionally. There's a lot to really look at and dissect when you're the head coach, and how prepared are we, and is the team taking it for granted, or are they really on point and ready to play a tough game? And those are all things that I'm sure they're analyzing, and how could we have changed this outcome and make sure it doesn't happen again. And those are things you get with your assistant coaches and even sometimes your administrators and the manner in which we're traveling or what all, how this all go, analyze it all and find a way to correct it.
Yeah, and they're going to have to do it without their quarterback for at least the next 4 weeks. And they have truly 3 losable games on their schedule with BYU, Clemson, and USC still to come. All right, this weekend we had kind of a shocker, if you will. The Texas Longhorns found a way to make it interesting against Alabama, and they probably should have won that game, but Alabama found a way to win. Unfortunately for Texas, yours now out for possibly 4 weeks. Best case scenario to return for the Red River rivalry against Oklahoma. Your thoughts on Texas and how they played against Alabama?
I agree with you. They by all rights should have won the game and very easily could have won the game. I thought there was an interference call that wasn't called on Alabama, in the end zone early in the game, and they got a field goal, which that would have gave them a 1st and goal at the 2. They missed a short field goal, I believe, at some point in the game, or maybe it was right before half. They missed another short field goal. But I very much thought, Texas had a great opportunity to win that game and played toe-to-toe with Alabama, definitely. And like I said last week, that I wasn't jumping on any Texas bandwagon until I saw something, and that was worthy of seeing. They played a heck of a game.
Yeah, they played really well. And the big surprise to me was how well that young offensive line played against the defensive front for Alabama and really frustrated those defensive ends from Alabama that we've heard so much about it. And also the pressure the D-line was able to get on the Alabama quarterback.
Agreed with both of those. I thought defensively they played an excellent football game. And Alabama has a lot of weapons out there and a very experienced, good quarterback. And they really, were very sound and got pressure to them, covered well. I thought they played really well.
All right, Texas, of course, is playing UT San Antonio this weekend. How do you see that? Do you see it as a letdown game with all this pressure? Because they're good.
Be careful of
UTSA. UTSA is good.
I'm telling you, but
ask Houston. They're good.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm a believer in what I saw last week of them playing Alabama and believe they'll carry that over.
Yeah, they got to have that same intensity or they could be in trouble, especially when it comes to the point spread. All right, other big games this week, notable Georgia at South Carolina. Georgia, a huge favorite at 25 points in this game.
They look tough. I love their quarterback, Stetson Bennett. He's awesome. Tough defense, even though they lost 6-7 guys to the NFL. Looks like they just replaced them with similar type guys. So don't want to pick against Shane Beamer. I think the world of the guy and Spencer Rattler being there, but I just think Georgia's too strong right now. And I think South Carolina just came off a 10 or 17 point loss to Arkansas.
Yeah. And you talked about this last week that Beamer's got a good team, but he doesn't have a great team. Just doesn't have all the resources around him to protect Rattler or even be available for him to throw the ball to. And that makes a difference, especially when you're talking about SEC games.
Yeah, definitely. And Georgia just keeps proving it. Again, with that experienced quarterback to go with the defense, it's hard to handle.
All right, BYU beat a very talented Baylor team. It took overtime to do it. They're now number 12 in the country. They're going to be on the road at number 25, Oregon. Oregon, though, who got blown out by Georgia by 49 points, is actually favored in this one by 3.5 over BYU.
I'd take BYU.
I think BYU is a better football team.
I do too, and we'll see. I said before the Georgia game that I didn't feel Oregon was physical enough to deal with Georgia, but I haven't seen a ton of BYU to say they're certainly not as physical as Georgia. I don't know that anyone is, but I believe they're playing well and just beat a good Baylor team, so I think they'll carry that over.
I agree. All right, Texas Tech at NC State. NC State favored by 9.5 in this one. Tech looked really good last week. They beat a good Houston team. Tech undefeated in this early season.
Yeah, I'm going to just personally, I love the Tech coaches. They're buddies of mine, so I'm going to go with Tech.
That's right. Go with your buddies. When in doubt, go with your buddies.
There's no science to that. That's just pure feeling. So So we'll see, though. That I've been impressed with NC State. They have looked good.
They have looked good. All right, Miami Hurricanes at number 24, Texas A&M. Texas A&M favored by 6 points. Miami in this young season has looked really impressive at times. A&M, though, I don't know what it is. If they play Alabama, they look really good. For other teams, they have just not performed at the level I think most of us expected them to play.
That's a good point. And they got Mario Cristobal got a great coaching staff down there with him in Miami. I just don't know that they've got all the players just yet to do it. And Jimbo's recruited really well. I know they had a poor game last week, which in my mind will serve as a lot of motivation to the team, and they got a big name in Miami to play. So I see A&M bouncing back, and again, I just don't know that Miami's had time to fill that roster the way they need to.
Yeah, and again, the people in Vegas agree with you. A&M favored by 6. All right, our last on the pick'em, Youngstown State at number 9, top 10 ranked Kentucky. Rodriguez, the running back, won't be playing this week for Kentucky. Coming back, good news for Wildcat fans on October 1st. How do you think your brother's going to do against Youngstown State?
Youngstown State better look out. So I think
all the Stoops are going to be in a chance for this
I
one.
just love his quarterback, Will Levis. His coaching staff's done a great job, all of them. So I don't see them letting up, and especially being at home, it'll be a great day. So I think they'll continue to play well.
It'll be a great day for the entire family.
Absolutely. I can't wait.
All right, Coach, thank you so much. And thank you so much for watching. Remember, for videos anytime, just click on our video tab. For Hall of Fame football coach Bob Stoops, I'm Brad McMullen.